We are having a conversation today with Nitin Aggarwal, who is Google's AI Cloud Services Head in India. We'll talk about how Google is helping its clients build AI solution. Nitin will talk about his own experience in AI industry, how he sees the future of AI in next 5 years. In the end, Nitin will talk about some tips for anyone who wants to build a career in AI and ML industry. Let's get started. So, Nitin, first of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for spending time today for this conversation. Well, we can directly start with your role at Google. So, tell us what is your role at Google and how does your typical day look like?
Cool, absolutely, Dhaval. So, Dhaval, I'm currently leading Cloud AI Industry Solution Services team at Google. So, I'm leading team for India. So, any Indian customers, strategic customers who are currently working with Google Cloud or who wants to work with Google Cloud, and they are solving some complex business problems, but they need our help on AI/ML. So those problems can be like, for example, that okay, these problems has never solved in the past. They want to collaborate with Google and use this particular technology to solve it. Or it can be like that, okay, using some of our products that, okay, yes, how they can enable them, how they can fast track their AI/ML development or build their ecosystem or AI/ML policies. They come to us, they come with Google, and they actually collaborate with us. So all those customers are falls into my charter that, okay, yes, my team actually supports them. They work with them, they consult them. Along with that, they build our solutions, pushing things into production, and then giving it to the customers. So during this particular, what I should say, end-to-end development, we work with our partners like Accenture, Deloitte, and any third-party partners who support us into building those kind of things, and then we support our customers. So that's my typical role. So I lead that particular team that contains AI engineers and AI consultants who works throughout this kind of a journey. If you talk about like, hey, my what my typical day-to-day work or my day-to-day job look like, uh, I work, but I should say 30 to 40% of the time working with their customers, talking to their CXO level audience, understanding their problems that, okay, hey, what kind of a problems, business problems that they're actually solving for, how technology can be used. AIML, it can be a different thing. If AIML can be used, that will be awesome, but it can be directly used by data analytics itself or not, so that we can pass it to the different team. So talking to the customer, that's the first, what I should say, the foremost requirement for my role, 30 to 40% of the time. Rest 30 to 40% of the time, it will be more like brainstorming it with my team, with the various stakeholders from various product areas like Google Research, Google Product Team, then Industry Solutions Team. Then talking about like some of our bets, Verily or something like that. If you're working with them, if we have solved that particular problem, how to solve it, what kind of a data that we will be needed, how to proceed, how to approach, and it's most like a solution design. Rest of the 20% I will split into again two half. The first 10% is the team management because I'm managing a team over here. So yeah, looking forward to their career, what my people wants, what my team wants, how actually I can support them, what kind of things that will be actually helping them, any questions. So it's like a very open-ended sessions or discussions. And rest 10% of the time, it's more about me learning about new things because the kind of a role
Hmm.
that I am, I need to be fully updated about that. Okay, yes, exactly what's happening in the world. In my experience, technology has not evolved a lot. The last thing that I have learned, something drastically changed, was attention networks. But everything came after that. But it's primarily about what kind of business problems has been used, how
Hmm.
people are getting creative and innovative to solve various business problems using this technology. So
Hmm.
reading about that, participating into conferences, sharing my thoughts, meeting all other like leaders within the same space across the organization and inter-organization. So that's my.
It is quite an intense role because we are just saying, right? AI is an evolving field, and now you have to learn a lot of things. Then you have to talk to a lot of customers. Sometimes customers really don't understand like how AI can help. Sometimes they want to use AI, but remember we wrote this post on LinkedIn that really a problem can be solved by regular expression, but people have this fascination for AI, and now you have to kind of convince them that no, right? So it must be
Yes.
kind of very challenging, and especially collaborating with teams. I'm hoping across not just in one region but across the board. It's quite an intense experience.
Hey, it's a very interesting experience, and that's the I think that's the thing that I really love by like about my role itself. It's primarily that okay, hey, you don't even know what your customer will ask for. That okay, hey, they come with dreams, we call it as, and we convert that dream into reality with a lot of technology, right? The biggest challenge itself is that okay, AI has built a very different aura, very different ecosystem around it. People think that, okay, hey, you can build anything, any chatbot,
It's
anything.
like a
Okay.
magic.
It's just like a magic that, okay, hey, so usually a lot of the times the conversation starts with, hey, can I use AI/ML? Instead of that, okay, hey, this is my business problem. And then we define a business problem that, okay, hey, with AI/ML we can solve this.
Yeah.
Can do you want to solve this or not? And I think that's a very, very common thing where we failed badly. And when we start backwards instead of forward, that, okay, this is
Hmm.
the business problem that I'm solving. Can I use this technology or not? So
Hmm.
it's a fun piece, but definitely that, okay, yes, a lot many of the times, if you come up with a solution that, okay, hey, you use a rule based engine, use a regular expression to solve this thing. Why do you need AI?
Hmm.
So we get a lot of interesting answers that, okay, no, I want to use AI. So it happens. It happens. And it's a fun journey.
I have a small software venture, and I have a friend whom with whom we work, and he has multiple businesses. And once he registered some website like AI something dot like something dot AI, and he's like,
Mm.
I want to invest $1 million in this AI venture app. And then I'm like, but what do you want to do? He's like, oh, you tell me what you are an expert. I don't know. I just want to put money. People think this AI is just this next cool thing, and you can do like magical things in it somehow. And really, I think the education is something that is really needed, not just for the AI engineers, but to the business counterparts who are the end users of AI. So, if you
Yes.
don't mind discussing, can you talk
Mhm.
about, let's say, one project that you have
Mhm.
done at Google, helped a client, and walk us through the step-by-step process of how Google helps the end client in terms of these AI solutions?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can share some of those details. No, not all of those details because of compliance concerns. But I can take an example that latest we solved with Apollo 247, and we recently made that thing as a public blog post as well. That was delivered by my team.
Hmm.
Shamila was the AI consultant in that. So we actually solved that particular problem where Apollo 27 came to us and can we collaborate together to build a clinical decision support system. So what does CDSS mean? CDSS means that, okay, for example, if you're going to a hospital, going to a physician to say that, okay, I'm facing these kind of a challenges. Okay, physician fatigue is very common. Okay, and patient fatigue is as well. So you just want to make sure that yes, the physician is fully supported. For example, if you say, hey, I'm getting headache, I'm getting diarrhea, I'm getting these kind of a things, it can the system nudge the physician? Have you recommended these kind of a tests or not? Have you asked these kind of follow-up questions or not? And the same thing. For example, if I'm the patient and if I want to go and go to some portal, I will say that, okay, hey, I'm getting anxiety, I'm getting like sweating, I'm getting like little bit of fever, something like that. Can it say that, okay, you might be having a high blood pressure? Can you say that, okay, you might be getting like a panic attack, something like that? And it will automatically recommend me that, okay, go to emergency, go to these kind of physician, so that I will start getting like some initial things instead of like me searching on Google that, okay, what's happening?
Hmm.
At Google, everything turns out to be a cancer, right? So
I
that
know.
that's exactly that's exactly what we're trying to solve. So this is how the collaboration starts. That can we actually do that? And for that, and for the foremost thing, we need medical history, some sort of a medical records of the individual. The first thing, what I should say, the important thing started with the redacting the data, so that yes, we do not have any patient information like the name,
Hmm.
their unique ID. We call it as PHI, like a personal healthcare information, so that our models will not start getting what I should say, little biased towards certain community or something like that. After cleaning up the data, we need to select the data. Can we actually use open source data or do we need to use like a personal data? So sometimes if you get the open source data, we usually starts with that because that will give you a lot of opportunities to run experiments without going into or considering of wasting a lot of time into redacting these kind of details and then merging the data from Apollo 27 or these kind of customers to understand it. So the majority of the time that starts with it's to parsing the data, to process the data, because data will be in silos. It will be here and there, something in text, something in JSON format, something in XML. So like clean data will always be available into Kaggle competitions, not into the
Hmm.
reality.
Hmm.
So a lot of the time we'll actually spend that, okay, yes, how to process the data. And even to process the data, you need an infrastructure.
Hmm.
So for that infrastructure, how the VPC will look like, what kind of a VPNs, what kind of a control and security mechanisms. Sometimes you will say that, okay, for example, one of the challenge was we cannot use internet,
Hmm.
right? So in that case, your developers will not have access to the internet. It will be a lot many things that we'll be saying. So it means all the model will be trained locally and so on and so forth. So your solution designing and your schema will change. Once we'll start, like we got the data, that's the first piece. I will say 20% of the work has been done when you get the data in your format in that particular environment. And then rest of the 40% or 50% of the work that we'll be starting is to understand the data, exactly what's happening, what kind of a symptoms we're talking about, what kind of an entities that we want to extract, how we want to extract, why we want to extract those things. Okay. So it's almost about like converting that natural language into some sort of a structured format. So if I'm saying is that, okay, hey, I'm getting panic attack or I'm getting anxiety, you will not just say that, okay, anxiety, sweating, something like that. You will be saying that, okay, hey, I'm getting sweat. Somebody will say that, okay, I'm sweating. Even for the sweating, a lot many people will be using different terms, right? And when you talk about like some different languages, like for example, Hindi or different regional Indian regional languages, because it's an Indian customer like Malayalam, Kannada, or something like that, then even then in that case, they will start using those local terms. So first need to identify exactly what's happening, how the data is changing. So you need to work on that particular front. And then the time comes to select what kind of a model that you need to select, why you want to select that thing, depending upon your infra, depending upon your data, and depending upon where you are going to use it. So then in that case, you will be solving that particular problem, running a lot of experimentation, training it, and then generating the output to create some benchmark that, okay, this is the minimum output that we can actually get from a basic model, then advanced model, and so on and so forth. So this is like a typical life cycle. What's really fascinating across this particular life cycle, Dhaval, it's primarily about thinking at scale. You cannot say that, okay, hey, let me run an experimentation small. And if I'm getting good results, I can then scale later on. It won't work. Because in that case, you will realize when you're scaling things, this model is not working. This data pre-processing technology is not working. So your whole hypothesis, your background will actually change. And you can't do anything around it. So you have to start thinking at scale from the day one itself. That, hey, I'm talking about, for example, 1 billion of the data needs to be processed. I can only take 4 or 5 days to train my model on. So all of those restrictions that you need to put in over there, that, hey, these are the largest machines I can use to train my model, and so on and so forth.
Got it. That looks like a lot of work. And once you build all these models, I'm sure like you might be using, you're probably using Google's cloud infrastructure, right? To deploy them and to run it for inference.
Yes. So definitely we are a Google. So we use like our charter is to use Google Cloud. So we use Google Cloud, but it may or may not be like on Google Cloud as a server. Sometimes a lot of customers ask that, okay, can I deploy my model on the edge? Because a lot of physicians will not even have strong internet.
Got it.
So in that case, again, your end-to-end schema will change. So, the first thing I talked to you about is like thinking at scale. So that point of a time, you need to cover all those kind of base nodes, where I'm going to train my model, how I'm going to train my model, where I'm going to use it, who are going to use it, how they are going to use these models. So based on all those kind of things, where solution designing will change.
Got it. And when you hand over this model to Apollo 27 or whoever the client is, I'm sure they will also have engineering team, and do they take care of further development? And is it like that Google is serving as a first cut? They help them build first cut solution and they help them with consulting. And then later on, the capabilities are developed with the client IT team so that they can do further development.
Yeah, it happens. Well, in that case, this is like a collaboration, like this kind of a CDSS system. It exists. Some pieces of that CDSS exist here and there. But end-to-end CDSS, if you say that, okay, it does not exist anywhere in the world right now. So in this kind of a team, it looks like that, okay, yes, we simplified it a lot, but we actually worked on this problem for more than 7 months to even just to understand exactly what's happening. What do you mean by CDSS? How you define it? So it's like a large team. Even from our side, it will be infra team, then it will be data team, then it will be AI team, then it will be like a DevOps team, and then it will be, Apollo 247 has like a sophisticated AI ML team. So like it will be like team from their side who can just keep building on those things. And they cannot disclose some of the data set with us as well, right? So now they will be adding their data set as a part of that model, because the base model is available. Now you can just keep adding new data, latest data, so that the model will evolve. Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. Now, have you worked on any Google AI projects that has a direct impact on the people who are listening to this conversation right now?
I have done it. I actually moved to this cloud role a few years back. When I started my career at Google, I joined the team called the Trust and Safety team.
Hmm.
So that team is primarily responsible to make the Google products safe. That okay,
Hmm.
yes, if some sensitive content that should not be there, that is not compliant to Google policies, that's actually coming up on those kind of products or not. So that
Hmm.
point of a time, I used to work on AdWords. So whatever like you search at Google, some of the initial solutions like results, organic results, they are the ad results as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I should say on the top of the organic results, they are the ads result. So my role was like one of those roles that okay, here's to determine that okay, that particular ad is safe or not. So that point of a time, I use this particular technology to build a couple of solutions that has actually deployed to understand and to define or to determine if this particular ad is good or not, like impacting some policies. So Google as an ecosystem is pretty huge.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of people, a lot of team actually working to make the various products and everything safer. So I say that okay, yes, that's like those are a couple of projects that directly impacted the everyday users. Whatever you search on Google, the ads
Hmm.
that you're getting, if that's compliant to Google policies, or
Hmm. And that's one of the unique benefit of working at Google, that you feel like you're working on something, right? Let's say you're working in Google Map team, and on the other hand, in
yes.
your day-to-day life, you are the user of Google Maps. So it's kind of like
Mhm.
a very fulfilling career, if especially if you're working on those products which directly impact customers' life. So now,
It's a fulfilling career, though. It's not just about what I should say my full time job. So Google has a concept of 20% projects as well.
hmm,
So I have worked with like Verily, like some couple of really interesting projects.
hmm,
One even like a very new product that we pitched to few people from scratch. That okay, yes, can Google develop that?
hmm,
And like few other bets and few other teams that I've worked with during my like last 6.5, 7 years
hmm,
at
hmm.
Google. So yeah, it's a pretty fulfilling career.
Yep. And since we're talking about Google already, um, Google is one of the companies where I would say like probably top uh, a dream company for anyone to work for. So, what is this unique thing about Google's culture that binds people together for the success?
I think Naval, before working with Google, even I have some corporate experience working with two other companies. I will say three other companies as well. Um, I will. I think the three things that I really find very different and very attractive at Google. The first thing is the people. The kind of a people that you work with, they are one of the best. So one of the best of the minds, like one of the best in their universities, in their colleges, one of the best like in their field. So whenever you're actually talking to someone, you will find that okay, yes, this person is here for some reason.
Hmm.
So whatever the problem that you're working with, you will always find someone who has actually tried their hands on solving this particular problem. So
Hmm.
it will be like hardly you will find a problem where you're actually starting from scratch when nobody has worked anything.
Hmm.
So that's the first piece. The second thing is its acceptance to failure.
Hmm.
So like that's why people are very eager to take risks because they know that okay, yes, even if they're getting failed, it's okay, nothing will happen. So definitely there will be some calculated risk that you need to take because it's a corporate environment. But the what I should say the threshold to accept that failure is very large. Like the
Hmm.
team, the managers, the management, they're very collaborative. Everybody will be having the different experiences for sure. But
Hmm.
I'm just sharing that okay, yes, what are the experiences that I got? I took a lot of risk. Sometimes I got success, sometimes I got failed. But fortunately, I always had like some really good leaders who accepted that thing that provided me that particular question. And the third thing is about the kind of a work, the kind of an exposure that you actually get. That okay, hey,
Hmm.
solving cutting edge, solving some of the problems that nobody has actually thought about it.
Hmm.
So even if you are not directly working on that particular project, you can what I should say, you can apply for that. You can say that okay, you can ask, can I actually work on it? You can request. So
Hmm.
definitely in that case, people are very open. If you can contribute, they will ask you to contribute. They will request you to contribute. So
Hmm.
in that case, you can be part of something very different that nobody has thought, nobody has solved it before. So the kind of exposure, the kind of learning that you will be getting, it's really outside of the world. So I
Hmm.
believe that these are three things that makes Google very different, very attractive.
Got it. And let me mention the fourth point, which is probably obvious to you now that you've been with Google for so many years. I was just
Mhm.
looking at Google's Bangalore office pictures, and the office is like absolutely stunning. I've been in US.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
those kind of swanky offices, but like the Bangalore office, especially like India, I think that's a new kind of Google is setting up a new standard now. of how a
Yeah.
workplace should look like, right? With all the free food and games and whatnot. Do you want to talk about Bangalore
Yeah.
office a little bit?
It's a good office, but I have like little preference. I think people will call me biased. I love Hyderabad office. That's where I
Ah,
started my career. I found that
okay.
okay, that office is the best office I have ever seen at Google. So people
Oh,
will be
okay.
having different experiences, but yeah, that's my experience. I think Hyderabad is my first love. So, but Dhaval, yeah, definitely. Google has a lot of perks, some really, really interesting, very, very awesome perks. But I believe that okay, over a period of a time, like after spending almost 6+ years at Google, I believe that okay, those perks, all those benefits will go away
Hmm.
if you're not going to provide an enthusiasm, if you cannot provide some really good quality of work
Right.
to the people.
Hmm.
Nobody will be just like coming to the office for a free food. That's my
Got it.
experience. So, and by quality, Google hire people who are actually self-motivated. So
Yes.
yes, perks are good so that you can get some so the people who are actually working solving problems, they don't care about like regular day to day things. Hey, where I will be like going for my lunch or what I'm going to
Yeah.
eat, and right. So those kind of things nobody will care, so that people can only focus on their job. It's a very good strategy, very good social experiment. So yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Yep. All right. Now, I follow you on LinkedIn. I regularly read your LinkedIn post, and everyone,
Thank you
we are
so
going
much.
to provide Nitin's LinkedIn handle in the video description. So please follow him. He writes these posts with the hashtag excerpts from experience, which is basically whatever he's learning from his experience. He writes very insightful post. So let's discuss few questions on that particular
Sure.
topic. So
Mhm.
based on your experience, how do you see AI's adoption in the industry? Is it that just FANG companies are using AI uh, in reality, and then rest of the companies they have AI just in their slide deck, and they are really not using AI? Like, how do you see that adoption in the industry?
That's an interesting question. Well, I think that okay, we have made Fang as the master of AI. That's not the reality.
Okay.
Yeah. So currently, I'm working with an Indian customer for the past 4 years. When I was in US, I was working with like a lot of North American customer. I'm currently working with a lot of EMEA-based customer as well. So I can actually say that okay, hey, I have worked with all the customers across the world. Out of Fortune 500, I'm pretty sure that okay, I have talked to a lot, like more than 200 or 300 Fortune 500 companies, like the CXOs, their problems, their current implementation structures, and everything. So I don't see that okay, it's only FANG companies. There are a lot of other companies who have some really, really sophisticated ML systems in place. So they're actually solving a lot of those problems. They are actually using this particular thing, this particular technology to add a lot of business value. Now, if you will ask me that, okay, hey, if they are using reinforcement learning or computer vision or not, that's a different thing. I will call like a linear regression and logistic regression as well as a machine learning.
Hmm.
So that's the thing. But a lot of like financial services, what I should say as an industry vertical, they're pretty mature. Retail is pretty mature. Retail is actually now focusing on optimization that can actually personalize the prices of the tickets, for example, or prices of the products to you as well or not. So those experimentations are going on with a lot of, I should say, these kind of verticals. Retail, financial services. What else? Healthcare is actually catching up a lot with a lot of medical imaging things, but on patient health, on population health, population experience, patient experience, physician experience. On those kind of verticals, a lot of automation, a lot of this technology is working on. Manufacturing is catching up a little bit more with predictive maintenance, one of the foremost use case, few other things like a visual inspection, something like that. So those use cases are picking up a lot. So yeah, I'm not very sure whether you heard about it on Google and Food. They are actually working together to solve a lot of really cool problems. So when I talk to them, that okay, yes, they have a lot of really impressive AI/ML implementations. So I will not say that okay, it's just FANG companies. I have seen companies across the world
Hmm.
who are currently using or a lot of workloads running into production with AI/ML.
That's really nice to hear, and definitely a good news for all the AI aspirants, because that means a lot more jobs in AI in next 5 years.
It's coming, man, for sure.
Since we are talking about next 5 years, like, what do you see any major trends emerging, and how do you see in general the future of AI in next 5 years?
I will say that okay, as trends are emerging. Dhaval. One of my learning was primarily about that. Okay, hey, the fad behind this AI is going away. People are getting more realistic. So now you cannot just show some fancy work around it. that, okay, hey, see, you can use these videos, capture these things. You can use drones to capture those things. More those that time I believe that, okay, it's going away. Now people are getting realistic. Now people are asking ROI, return on investment on that.
Hmm.
Now they want to see AI as a P&L in their balance sheet, not just like all the risk. They should be getting some benefits out of it, either like a
Hmm.
cost reduction or either like revenue increment or whatever it can be, whatever the impact we're talking about. But that impact should be actually converting into dollar values.
Hmm.
So I believe that, okay, over the next 4 or 5 years, those kind of fields will be actually emerging. So that's why MLOps is getting a lot of hype. So this is the only reason, because if no MLOps, it means you're not pushing models into production.
Hmm.
So the previously I'm talking about that, okay, McKinsey shared those things, Forbes shared those numbers, like more than 85% of the models never moved into production. I believe that, okay, that number will go down. So more models will be actually pushing into production. Before running any experimentation, before running any project, the people will start asking what's the impact, how you're going to solve it. So I think that particular impact will be there. So I believe that, okay, over the next 5 years, nothing dramatically will change, but people will be getting like a more realistic. They will be focusing more on solving problems that will be actually impacting their balance sheets, their P&L statements, and then pushing models into production with MLOps and solving the problems at scale. So I believe that, okay, that will be my prediction. If I will put my money on for the next 5 years, I will go for MLOps.
MLOps. That's really interesting. I was looking at some pictures which my graphics editor created using this AI tool called Midjourney, where you can just give a text like, okay, Iron Man doing Bhangra, for example. And that generated pretty interesting images. Like, and after looking at those images, I'm like, wow, AI in the space of creativity is getting, it's hitting the ground.
Yeah, that's a good thing, though. But again, I will ask you the questions. I found that, okay, these kind of things little gimmicky. But
Okay.
okay, so I'm a practical guy because that's my job is. So I will say that, okay, they were like, who will use this thing? What kind of a business model that we can wrap it around?
Right. So now I can answer that question because I run a YouTube channel and I have a lot of use case on that. So let's say I want to sometimes use a funny visuals to convey my ideas to my viewers. And I need to create custom visualization. For example, I want to say like Iron Man doing Bhangra. Usually I use all this website like TechSmith and whatever, Shutterstock to get the images for my creative work. But often these images are not enough. Like they don't satisfy my needs.
Yes.
So I was always looking for this way of I can tell to a computer and computer generates the image based on what I'm telling it to do. And Midjourney has been kind of, the results are still not great, but they're pretty significant. So I think
that's the thing. Like that can be like a good use case for sure, but that can be acting as an add-on. With, for example, either we talking about like a meme GIF or Shutterstock itself. That, okay, instead of like giving me the pre-created image, an AI can create an image. Yeah, right. I agree to that particular point. But I'm saying is that, okay, it will only just improve certain aspects of it.
Yeah,
you cannot like create another like a full business use case around it. And to deploy those kind of things, run those kind of things, build those kind of things, that comes up like with a heavy cost. So I will say that, okay, yes, these are some really good use cases. I was actually reading one paper and where you can actually just give a text and it will create a small video out of it. So you can say that, okay, hey, can you show me like a 2-minute video where like Iron Man is doing Bhangra in red color in these kind of a costume, and it will actually create a small GIF for you. A small video. So I found it very enticing, very, very good. But I still believe that, okay, hey, the companies who are actually trying to solve this kind of a problem, they have better problems to solve rather than going for this kind of a thing.
I agree.
That will be my experience.
That video will be useful to a TikTok influencer, for example. Let's say they want to post something, but that's very narrow use case. But there are a lot of real problems to solve. The medical Apollo 347 client that you talked about, that's like the real use case, which is impacting people's life, right? The creative space is a little different. All right. So now you are ahead of Google Cloud AI in Asia region right now. A few years back, you were a lecturer at Rutgers Business School. So I'm kind of also into this teaching space. So I want to hear your thoughts on how that teaching experience helped you become what you are right now.
Okay, I'm currently a lecturer at Rutgers as well. Naval. So I actually own their AIML, like a small segment of AIML in the in mini MBA program. So I deliver
Mm,
that thing. So I believe, okay, Dhaval, in my role, as soon as you jump up the ladder, you move to like a more senior roles, it becomes really tough for you to get connected to the ground, to keep doing the real stuff on the ground. Okay, I will not say that, okay, hey, you will stop doing it, you will keep doing it, but more like that, okay, a thought leadership, that okay, yes, how
mm,
to solve this kind of a problem instead of like writing code for each and everything by yourself. Like from 80%, it reduces to 50%. So I believe that, okay, that at that particular time, you know that, okay, what kind of a concept that will really help people with just starting
mm,
their journey. And when you just go to the teaching experience, when you explain yourself, it really clears a lot of concepts from you. What
mm,
I'm doing in these kind of a courses, Dhaval, even not just at Rutgers, I'm also teaching ML courses at Google at Capital G, or we have like internal group called as NGDU or MLEDU groups where
mm,
we like deliver those kind of sessions. It's very interesting and very exciting to see that what kind of a use cases that people are working with. So in day-to-day life, you will be talking to a certain segment of people, solving certain problems. So it's very, very exciting to learn from their experience that, okay, hey,
mm,
can I solve this particular problem as well now? Hey, I'm working on this thing. So can I brainstorm with this video as well? So that will
mm,
increase your horizon. So I believe that, okay, yes, teaching helped me a lot. So that's
mm,
why, like, for the last 7, 8 years, I have never left teaching. I always like teaching one or two courses every year
mm.
here and there for sure.
That's really interesting. I mean, I saw this in your LinkedIn profile. I thought maybe that this is something you were doing in past, but you're doing this with your very busy job right now, and that's really cool. So my next question is: you grew up in India, work abroad for a few years, then now you're back in India. So how much of that Indian experience have helped you work abroad, and how much of that working abroad experience is helping you right now? Now that you are in India.
That's an interesting question, Dhaval, sir, and very tough one as well. And it's on the line that, okay, yes, what should I say? So the thing is, Dhaval, that yes, both experiences were very, very different. The work culture, the kind of a things that how we think about over here, the risk appetite, and as well as the kind of a problems that we're solving in India, it's very different than what we're actually doing in
Mm,
US or abroad. So I believe that, okay, yes, both of experiences were really, 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 really different.
mm,
I found that, okay, we are actually misusing the term of experience. We are actually looking out for exposure.
mm,
Okay. And just to quantify exposure, we came up with a number of years of an experience with
mm,
a direct correlation that, okay, if some person has like 5 years plus or 10 years plus or 20 years plus experience, this person might have this kind of an exposure. So
mm,
that's my understanding. So I believe that, okay, on that exposure side on abroad while working with US, I got like a huge exposure, the kind of a problems, multi-million problems, even like $1 billion problem that I was a part of. I got that particular exposure. Like the kind of a risk appetite was pretty high, so I can actually take risk. I can actually make like what I should say, make some really progress, like move fast, fail fast, that sort of an approach. So that was really good. Understanding the kind of what I should say, the next generation systems that we need to build, not what we are solving it for today, not what we are solving it for next 5 years, but we are solving problems for next 20 years or 30 years. How we can think about that, how we can actually change the customer experience. So I believe that, okay, that exposure it's very different. In India, what I should say, we are focusing more on the practical problems that, okay, can we actually solve this problem with certain probability of success?
mm,
That yes, can I replicate the success what we have delivered in the past at a global customers? Can we replicate the same thing over here in India or not?
mm,
So risk appetite is it's very low, definitely for some obvious reasons as well. But that, okay, yeah, the risk appetite is very, very different over here. The replication of that thing is different, and the kind of a problem that you want to solve is for next 5 to 10 years instead of next 40 years. So
mm,
I believe that, okay, both of experiences were different. That actually made me realize that, okay, yes, every market is different. The thought process in EMEA market is very different. The thought process in Japan in or in Australia, that market is very different. So it's yeah. So I think a lot of those exposure, a lot of those experiences really helped me to think through globally. So now today, if I solve any problem, I will think through it that, okay, yes, how it will impact that region, how it will impact
mm.
people based out in those things, how it will impact the customers based out in that region, and so on and so forth. So that actually make my perspective global.
Awesome. All right. Now I know a lot of the viewers who are watching right now, they want to get a job at Google. So, what is the career advice you want to give to the AI aspirants, especially,
Mhm,
and also discuss about the importance of soft skills, right? In your
mhm,
personal career, also, a lot of the non-tech soft skills have helped you tremendously. So, you can talk
mhm.
from the perspective of your experience and also advise people, the university students, let's say, who are studying AI ML right now and whose goal is to get a job at Google. So what is that advice? I know it's a very broad question, but maybe you can cover like two or three broader points.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dhaval. I will start with that. If anybody's interested, Google is hiring. I'm hiring, so apply for it. So the thing is, Dhaval, what I say first and foremost, what I believe it's most important is in getting a job, even like a start searching for a job in AIML, is to define what kind of a role that you're looking out for. I classify various roles into three sections or three segments. The first thing is applied AI, where you're actually taking the existing technology, solving business problems, solving any problem that will be actually making an impact. That's a different field. So in that case, you can actually look out for like some product companies as well, services company. They're solving those problems. The second segment we're talking about is the research team. On the research team, you're talking about that. Okay, hey, it's primarily about can I actually build some new algorithms? Can I actually build a new technology altogether from scratch? So they will be digging deep into only one segment or one section of that particular technology, digging deep into it so that they can build something new. The third thing, what I should say, it's more like a broader on the statistics side. We're actually solving a problem with the help of the data, analyzing those trends, building dashboards, so on and so forth, even building some small models, not at a scale, but like defining that value using statistics. I believe that okay, these are the three top roles exist into majority of the organization. Definitely each and every organization has the different needs, but you will find these kind of roles everywhere. So first you need to decide that okay, where you want to go. That's most important. Based on that, you need to build up your skills. For applied AI/ML side, the core skills will be yes, how you're actually converting or defining a business problem to a technical problem. That's going to be the most important piece. In that case, you need like a good communication, you need like a good problem solving, you need like a good aptitude and analytical skills, and along with that, you need a strong storytelling ability. Like that, yes, you can actually build a storytelling. So that particular kind of a skills will be really necessary. Second thing on the research side, you will be needing some really, really deep dived or some strong skills on the technology. That okay, hey, whether you know this technology in depth or not, like you're strong on algebra, you're strong on probabilities, you're strong on statistics. So that sort of a thing. The third piece we're talking about that okay, more like a data scientist role, that will be that hey, are you strong on statistics side or not? Can you actually think through a problem, come up with some sort of a solution, and then come forward with some sort of a business insights? That will be the other thing. Along with that, you need programming skills, R, Python, whatever the engine that you want to use, and so on and so forth. I, as an individual, I will be giving more preferences to soft skills that I believe that okay, a lot of people lack. So you can get like a Python certification, good R certification. You can learn machine learning. A lot of free courses are available. You have some really, really amazing content on your channel. I follow you as well, Dhaval. So some really, really awesome things. So you can learn it, but build your soft skill. That's going to give you the job. How you're actually presenting your thoughts, how structured they are, what kind of a story that you're actually building, and how you're actually coming up with some business outputs instead of just like a technical jargons or technical metrics as an output. So those would be my initial thoughts.
Thank you very much. I hope people listen to that advice and they spend their effort wisely, because when I interact with the students, mostly 95% of their time is spent in learning technology. So I always tell them like focus on these soft skills, right? Business understanding, analytical thinking, communication, and so on, and critical thinking even. And those are going to be super helpful in the future. So Nitin, that's it. Thank you very much for this conversation, and for all the viewers, we are going to post Nitin's LinkedIn profile in my video description. So make sure you follow. Don't think this conversation is over. Nitin regularly shares updates on what's happening in the field of AI in the industry. I follow him regularly, and I have learned a lot of things from him. So make sure you follow them. And Nitin, once again, thank you.